Some thoughts on aging. By the way, my name is Karis. I'm in holistic health and I was born in 1983. So at the current moment, I'm 41 years old. I've never gotten any work done of any kind other than straightening my teeth in my 20s. I have, however, been a vegetarian since 2010, so about 14 years. And I've been living mindful of the process of health and aging since about the age of 27. So when I first started implementing the changes that I've been living with ever since, a lot of people in my life were like, why are you doing that? Why do you care? You're making these weird choices. Basically, it was choices to support my health, but that went against the current culture of the time. And I remember saying you won't really be able to tell if it works for a few years. And here we are again, about a decade and a half later, and I think it's worked pretty well. So here are my thoughts. This is just what has worked for me. I can't guarantee that it would be exactly the same for anyone else, but it has definitely worked well for me, and I've been practicing this perspective for years. I believe that aging comes from a few factors. The first one is the nutrition you put into your body. Unless you're mindful about it, a type of diet that most of us were raised with doesn't necessarily feed your cellular structure so your body can create new cells. By the way, your body totally recreates itself cell by cell. Some people say a couple years, some people say it takes longer or not as long. Do your research yourself and find out. But if your body is constantly recreating the cells, then you should be able to heal anything. You should be able to stay in prime health if you take care of yourself. So again, number one is food to feed the cells. Number two is detoxification. A lot of cultures have had cleanses and fasts woven into their culture for religious reasons, and also it was just cultural. You should parasite yourself every now and then. You should clean out your digestive system every now and then, and so on. I'm from the US. We don't really have those here as a culture, so I had to put them in my own practice over time. And a lot of people don't know anything about detox, so you just have all this poison accumulating in your body over time by products we use, pollutants in our environment, pollutants in our food, and if you never really work to scrub it out, it will make you age faster. So far, we have things you put in and things you take out. And the third one is a mindset, and this might be a little hard to get your head around, but the more you think about it, the more it makes sense, in my experience at least. And it's the thought of when you reach a certain age, your body just starts to break down. Some people say this happens at 25, 35, 45, 50, 60, whenever. You can hear it in the culture, but it's not true for every single person. I've also noticed that when people get injuries later in life, if someone gets an injury, for instance, as a teenager, they'll often fully heal it. Their body will fully heal it and they'll focus on it until it's fully healed. Whereas as an adult, people may get an injury, I don't know, in their shoulder or whatever, and rather than fully healing it, they'll get to a certain point where it's not excruciating anymore, and then give it up to their age and say, oh, well, I'm 35 now, I'm 40 now, I'm 45 now. When you're this age, your body just starts to break down. That doesn't have to be true. And of course, you have to use your body so it doesn't get weak by you just sitting around all the time and never moving it. But I will say I've maintained a decent exercise regimen my entire adult life, and I don't feel weaker now than I did in my teenage and 20s years at all. I feel the same amount of energy. I feel like if I exercise, I have more of it, and if I don't exercise, I have less of it, and so on. And the last one is kind of a piggyback on the previous one, but it's visualization and energy work. I also trained in Reiki in my 20s, so I've always imagined divine energy going through my body, nourishing my body, and me being a force of nourishment for the world. And I believe that selfless thoughts of you creating something to help others, also keeps you supple, young, creative, and having a mind that can change directions, that can change paths, that isn't too rigid in a certain kind of way. And that also will protect your brain as you age, as we get up into our retirement years. The more paths you have in your brain, the more things you've learned, and the more fluid you're thinking, the less likely you are to get various forms of dementia, cognitive decline, and so on. Oh, by the way, I have master's degrees in health and in psychology. So those are the four that I've learned. What you put in your body, what you let out of your body, as in detox, what you believe is possible, and we can all reprogram our mind. It just takes some work, but it's totally doable. And then what kind of energy you run through your body. If you run energy through that makes things, that heals things, or if you run energy through that breaks things, if you're constantly critical of yourself and others, if you're constantly anxious and depressed. We all have stuff like this. I definitely have history of depression that runs in my family that I've had to be really sharp my entire life to keep myself healthy on the inside, because just depending on my genes wouldn't necessarily keep me how I have been. I know that was a lot, And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I think that we now live in an incredible time. For instance, some supplements I take, like spirulina, a generation or two before, you couldn't just have spirulina delivered to your door. So the rules are different now, but this has worked for me so far and continues to work, and I wanted to share. Have a great day, you guys.